a woman her husband had been my boyfriend for 4 years. She laughed and said, "So you're the stalker ex he warned me about." My boyfriend Dylan worked as a consultant and he traveled for work 3 days a week. I never questioned it because he was already doing that job when we met 4 years ago and I trusted him completely. He warned me early in our relationship that his ex-wife was unstable and might try to contact me someday. And he said, if she ever reaches out, just ignore her because she's obsessed with ruining my life and she'll say anything to break us up. I promised I would tell him immediately if she ever tried anything. So when I saw a string of texts on his phone from a woman named Do Not Answer while he was in the shower, I thought I was protecting him by looking. The messages said things like, "I miss you so much," and "The kids keep asking when you're coming home," and "Why won't you answer me? I thought we were okay." I showed Dylan as soon as he got out and said, "I think your ex is spiraling again. These messages are really creepy." And he looked panicked for a second before he grabbed the phone and said, "I told you not to engage with anything from her. She's dangerous and delusional. Just drop it." But I couldn't drop it. I found her address in his contact list, and I drove 40 minutes to her house because I wanted to look this woman in the eye and tell her to leave my boyfriend alone forever. She was gardening near the mailbox when I walked up, and she smiled at me and said, "Hi there, can I help you?" I told her my name and said, "I'm Dylan's girlfriend, and I need you to stop contacting him. I'm not afraid to get a restraining order." She stared at me for a second and then started laughing so hard she had to put down her gardening gloves. "Oh my God," she said between laughs. "You're actually real. You're the psycho stalker ex he warned me about." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Sweetheart, he warned me you might show up with some delusional story because you can't accept that he's moved on." I pulled out my phone and showed her photos of me and Dylan from our anniversary dinner 2 weeks ago and the beach trip we took last month, and her face slowly transformed from smug to confused to horrified. "Oh my God," she said quietly. "He told me he was at a conference that whole weekend. I stayed home with our kids." I asked her what she meant by our kids, and she said, "We have 2 children together. We've been married for 7 years. He supposedly travels for work half the week, and he's gone Monday through Wednesday every single week. Monday through Wednesday were the exact days he spent at my apartment." She invited me inside, and we sat at her kitchen table while her kids played in the backyard, and she texted Dylan saying there was an emergency with the kids and he needed to come home right now. 20 minutes later, his car pulled into the driveway and he rushed through the front door yelling, "What happened? Are they okay? Is someone hurt?" And then he saw me sitting across from his wife and he froze completely in the doorway. "Dylan," his wife said in a voice so calm it was terrifying, "why is your stalker ex-girlfriend showing me photos of you two at the beach last month?" He started backing up and said, "Babe, this isn't what it looks like. She's lying to you. I told you she was crazy and would try something like this." I stood up and said, "Then explain the lease with both our names on it, Dylan. Explain the joint savings account. Explain why you sleep in my bed every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday." His wife stood up too and screamed, "You told me you were traveling for work. You told me you were staying in hotels. I have been raising your children alone 3 nights a week for 4 years." He kept looking between us with his hands raised, saying, "Everyone needs to calm down because neither of you is understanding the full picture here." And his wife grabbed their wedding photo off the shelf and hurled it directly at his face. "The full picture," she screamed, "is that you made up a fake stalker so I would never believe her if she found me, and you did the exact same thing to her." He ducked and the frame shattered against the wall and he said, "I can explain everything, I swear." His wife looked at me with tears streaming down her face and said, "I'm glad you came. I'm glad you didn't just drop it like he told you to." I walked out past Dylan, who was still desperately trying to explain himself to a wife who was already on the phone with a divorce attorney. And by the time I got back to our apartment, I had already called a locksmith and started throwing his things into garbage bags that I left on the curb next to the trash where he belonged.